This is Bishop Michael Burbidge, and you are listening to the Walk Humbly Podcast.
Welcome to the Walk Humbly Podcast. I'm Billy Atwell, Chief Communications Officer for the Diocese and your co-host. If you haven't already, please rate this podcast, write a review wherever you're listening, iTunes, Spotify, etc. And sign up for our e-newsletter at arlingtondiocese.org, especially right now with everything going on. Our emails are critical, the most important information that we have to send to you. We're communicating through that e-newsletter. You can also follow Bishop Burbidge on Twitter, at Bishop Burbidge, where every day you can read a short reflection on the gospel of that day. You can also follow the Diocese on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and make sure you also subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the notifications bell. You can send your questions for Bishop Burbidge to info@arlingtondiocese.org. Again, that's info@arlingtondiocese.org. I welcome your host, Bishop Burbidge. Bishop, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Billy, and I hope our listeners are doing well, and certainly reassuring them and their families of my daily prayers and remembrance, especially at Mass as we continue to persevere through the pandemic. You're very much in my thoughts and prayers, everyone.
Good. We have a very unique podcast today. We're changing up the format a bit. We'll have a guest, but before we bring them in, I want to ask you about World Day of Prayer for Vocations, which will be on May 3rd. Typically, this is a day in which our priests talk about vocations at Mass. They share their stories, and all of them encouraging people to pray for vocations to the priesthood, diaconate, and religious life. Talk a little bit about this day.
Yeah, it's always an important day of prayer. It's a day that we lift up that universal call we all have to pray for vocations, to the priesthood, to consecrated life, to pray for one another as we faithfully live out the vocation that God has given to us, and to pray for an increase of vocations. We need more priests. We need more sisters and consecrated religious men and women in our church and in our diocese. So it's a day of heightened prayer, and I certainly invite everyone to take advantage of this opportunity and to pray for your priests in a special way, who I know are working so hard to stay connected pastorally and spiritually with all of their parishioners. So anytime we're united in prayer with a specific intention, and what a beautiful intention Vocations is, that's a good thing for the church. It's a good thing for our diocese.
And you can stay connected with the diocesan website, arlingtondiocese.org, where we'll have information about the World Day of Prayer as we get closer to May 3rd there. Bishop, a colleague in my office was helping at one of our parish food pantries and shared with me that 30 minutes before the pantry opened, there was a line out the block of people waiting to receive a bag of groceries worth about $10. And they waited a long time for that. And there was social distancing and so on. But that one parish alone gives $8,000 worth of food a week. A volunteer broke down and said, the need is so great. I know Art Bennett with Catholic Charities conveys a similar reality. Share some of your thoughts about the desperate need of food in particular at this time.
Sure, Billy. One of the greatest tragedies of this pandemic is the fact that those who were previously destitute and are barely hanging on to life each day, and those who were previously poor are now destitute. It's very, very sad. And we're talking about the basic necessities in life, food. St. Lucie Food Project distributes 1.25 million pounds of food a year. And right now, they are running low, and this is a grave concern for me. So I implore anyone who's able to please consider making a gift to Catholic Charities and or your parish food pantry. This is, as you mentioned, such a critical time, and we have to acknowledge we are running out of food quickly. So anything you can give us, dear friends, will go a long way. Will go a long way to feeding the poor and to keeping families and even our young children from going hungry.
Yeah, it spans every demographic, and folks that were once right on the line are now well into poverty and in desperate need. I know the St. Lucie Food Project alone distributes 1.25 million pounds of food a year, and they're running low. And that's a massive, food distribution network. So if you're interested in giving, go to ccda.net to donate. That's the Catholic Charities site. You can also go to arlingtondiocese.org/give. Either way, you'll be able to give to Catholic Charities and those important food initiatives. So, all right, Bishop. So now we're changing up our format a little bit. We have a guest.
It's very good. We're very happy because I think one of the things we want to do during our perseverance through this pandemic is to speak to people who are playing some unique roles and offering so much support and service to others. So I'm very excited to welcome on the podcast Sherri Longhill. Sherri is the Program Director for Emergency Assistance at Catholic Charities here in the Diocese of Arlington. So Sherri, thank you for joining me on the Walk Humbly Podcast.
Oh, good morning, Bishop Burbidge. Thank you for having me. Very glad to be here.
All right. So Sherri, if we could just ask a couple of questions. First of all, Sherri, for those not familiar with the Emergency Assistance Program, would you please tell our listeners about your program, what it does, and how it actually serves the poor?
Absolutely, yes. So we've been in existence for over 46 years, and we were set up to provide rent and utility assistance for families and individuals in crisis situations. So if they had a death in the family or a medical emergency, a divorce, and they have no safety net. And we've been continuing to do this all these years, and we operate out of Christ House, Alexandria, and an office in Leesburg. And those two offices cover the entire diocese.
Wow. And we are so grateful to you and to all who assist you in this work. How about you? How did you get involved in this line of work?
Well, I actually was in IT for 20 years. I was a systems engineer, and our company was bought, and I went to Herndon Rest and Fish as executive director of their emergency assistance program. So I was there for 3 years and saw an ad in the Herald for the Catholic Charities emergency assistance position. And the rest is history. That was 8 years ago. It's
amazing, isn't it? God has a plan for all of us, and He leads us where He needs us to be. And so
I know.
Thanks for your yes to His call. I know you could certainly provide us with statistics and analytics, and they are important. But I'm sure our listeners would appreciate maybe a story or two of someone you've helped recently that represents the types of struggles that people are going through at this time.
Okay. Yes. So most of the people that have been calling have been for rent requests, and they've been in the hospitality and service industries, and they are people coming from $40,000 to $60,000 a year paying jobs that have no savings or not enough to make even 1 month without working. So we've had, for example, a young mother with one child working full-time as a receptionist at a medical office. The father of her son's not involved in their lives. She was used to meeting all the financial responsibilities until the shutdown, and she had to apply for unemployment, which is half of what she was used to bringing home. Her one-bedroom apartment is only $1,460, but she has all her other expenses, such as a car payment, insurance, etc. She contacted her job, and they said the office may open in late May or early June. And she shared that she had to go to a food pantry for the first time. And she plans to go to the Christ House food pantry since she's out of food again.
Oh, boy.
And she needed a balance of $500, which Catholic Charities provided for her rent. But now she's concerned about May.
Sure.
And so we were able to give her referrals for, other agencies that might be able to help her.
And I guess there are so many more stories like this. Are you seeing such an increase in requests, people who previously maybe not required our help?
Yes, actually, these are pretty much all new people. And they're people that are not used to asking for assistance. They don't even know what a rent late notice is.
Wow.
They're embarrassed.
Sure. It's such a challenging time. But thank God, that we are there to help, and we want people to know that. What would you say is our greatest need at this time?
Well, emergency assistance really needs funding if we are to go beyond June. Right now, Christ House has enough money left to help 43 families with $500 each for rent, and the Leesburg office has enough money to help 37 families.
And what is it specifically that maybe you could say to your listeners that would be of most support to you and to your work and your ministry at this time, both how we can contribute, how we can pray? What is it that you're asking from all of us?
I think the biggest thing is we need your prayers. both for staff who are not used to telecommuting and doing all of this with people over the phone. It's very stressful for them, but also to pray for the people that we're helping.
Sure.
Like I said, many of them, they don't really know where to turn, and they're looking at another month or maybe longer before they go back to work. And then the third thing would be if we could get more funding to help more people with their rent assistance. And like I said, $500 is helpful. It will pay most of the time half of someone's monthly rent.
Right.
So we would ask for donations.
Well, I'm sure I could speak for the good listeners of this podcast. We can assure you and the people you serve and the people who are helping to minister to them, be assured of my prayers, and I know the prayers of all of our listeners. And I know that our faithful are so generous in supporting those in need, and I'm sure hearing this appeal, you will experience such support, and know that I and the Diocese will continue to work with you and our Catholic Charities to increase that support in any way possible. But we are so thankful to you, Sherri, for being on the podcast today, conveying to us the great need that's out there, and it's right at home. It's right here in our own neighborhood, in our own communities, and the need is very significant. And we'll entrust you and to God, that He may continue to bless all of your endeavors.
Thank you very much, Bishop Burbidge.
All right. Thank you, Sherri. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, thank you for having me.
All right, God
Have
bless
a good
you.
day.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thanks.
And again, as a reminder for folks, if you want to give to that direct assistance ministry, these people who were, able to make it until now, and now they're in need, you go to ccda.net/donate, and you can give to that specific ministry. You can give to Catholic Charities in general. But again, CCDA stands for Catholic Charities of Diocese of Arlington. ccda.net/donate.
And Bill, what's very providential? The day we're recording this, the Gospel at Mass today, is that beautiful story about the disciples are overwhelmed because they see a crowd that needs food, but the crowd was so large and they didn't have much to feed them with. And the Lord said, well, you do have 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. Give me that. And then the Lord multiplied that in miraculous ways where the people were satisfied in abundance. And sometimes, dear friends, when we hear of such great need, as Sherri just explained, we can get overwhelmed and we can feel inadequate. Well, what can I do to help that? But don't forget that the Lord only asks that we give Him our barley and our fish, whatever it is, whatever donation it may be, whatever sacrifice it may be, whatever prayer it may be. And then we can trust that God will miraculously use it, whatever we offer Him, to sustain and to nourish His people. So there is nothing too small.
Very good. And Bishop, before we get into questions from the faithful, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops made a big announcement this week about the consecration of the United States to Mary, Mother of the Church. Talk about that a bit.
Well, yeah, an act of consecration is meant to be a reminder to the faithful of our Blessed Mother's witness to the gospel, and to ask for her effective intercession before her Son on our behalf of those in needs. And this follows a similar consecration by the bishops of Latin America and Caribbean, Canada, doing the same thing as us on the same day, May 1st. So after May 1st, all of North America will be reconsecrated, in a sense, to Mary, the Mother of the Church. It's planned, as you mentioned, for May 1st. It does not change the designation of Mary as the patroness of the United States under the title of the Immaculate Conception.
Right.
So that's not changed.
Right.
Rather, this prayer reaffirms and renews previous Marian entrustments and unites us in solidarity with our Holy Father, who recently established the memorial of the Blessed Virgin Mary, Mother of the Church, as a source of protection and strength. So what will happen is Archbishop Gomez, who's the president of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, will lead a brief liturgy with the prayer of reconsecration on Friday, May 1st at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And he's invited the bishops of the country to join in from their prospective diocese and ask them to extend an invitation to the faithful in their diocese for their participation. So I'm doing that now on this podcast, but I think we will be getting this word out, right, Billy, through our social media and all.
Absolutely. We'll be spreading the word, so you'll see this again. But if you want to follow that live stream, you just go to facebook.com/USCCB. That's U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. But if you go to their Facebook page, it'll be live streamed from there. You'll see it in other places too, but if you go there, you know that you'll definitely see it. So again, you can join Archbishop Gomez in that brief liturgy, that reconsecration, on Friday, May 1st at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, facebook.com/USCCB.
Participation in something like this is that other reminder that we are in this together, that we are part of the universal church, and we're God's family, and it is the Lord leading us, and we know His Blessed Mother will protect us.
Absolutely. All right, so we have some questions from the faithful. The first is, what are some of your favorite stories that you've heard about families within the diocese during this quarantine?
Yeah, well, it is great to hear that our families are speaking about spending some real quality time together,
Like it or not.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But, even the nice traditions that many of us remember of family meals together. I know when in our busy times, sometimes everyone's running in different directions, but it's so great to see some pictures people are sending me of families sitting at the table together and enjoying meals. I'm learning of some new games that people are playing, having some fun together. One very cute thing was a trend where kids are writing down religious motivation chalk art. And I see that their parents it's really cute, posting it on our social media, like hope is contagious too, and different quotes from scriptures. I love seeing some people are posting and have sent me pictures of the families, sitting together for Mass and their actual participation. One had two little boys, maybe like 4 or 5. It was cute. They had their own little altar, and they were celebrating, pretending that they were, with the priest and offering the prayers or whatever.
You never know, that picture might come up again someday.
I
when
hope
they're being
it does.
ordained. You might see them again.
We might see that. And then, some people are like staying off social media rather than each going in separate rooms with their iPhones and all the different social media tools just to spend some time together. People are being creative. As I said, when we have additional time in our hands, certainly the world creeps in, and there'll be worldly ways that want us to fill that time in with destructive, not life-giving things that kind of take us a path we don't want to be on. So let's do the life-giving things that puts us in contact with the people we love and care for, and the healthy things spiritually, like spiritual reading, prayer, our own, keeping. It's easy to get off a good diet when you're just lounging around, but to stay, we're temples of the Holy Spirit and respect our body. So to eat well, to exercise, so to do the life-giving things during this time. And it's wonderful to see how individuals and families are doing this.
Yeah, and if you're one of those folks that are posting pictures of your family watching Mass, or whether it's chalk art or whatever, tag us on social media for Instagram and Twitter. It's at Arlington Church, and you can find us on Facebook as well. But tag us, let us see that. We'd love to be able to share some of these beautiful witnesses of the domestic church around our diocese. All right, Bishop, Chad from St. Bernadette's asked, how have previous financial crises impacted our diocese financially, and how well postured are we to survive the current crisis, which some economists predict may lead to Depression-era unemployment numbers? Sure,
and that's a good question, Chad, and it's obviously a question, being entrusted with the well-being of our parishes and their stability, that I'm having frequent conversations with our Chief Financial Officer, our Diocesan Finance Council, and other advisors. The good news is that the faithful of this diocese have been incredibly generous through every economic downturn. I wasn't here in 2008 during the real estate collapse at that year, but I was told that the overall offertory and BLA, the Bishop's Lenten Appeal giving, increased during that time.
That's incredible.
So I mean, that's really good news. And again, this is just because the Catholics throughout our diocese are invested in the ministries of the church. They know that the church, in no matter what times we are in, but especially in times of need, the church continues its ministries, especially our outreach, as we just heard from Sherri, to the poor and to the needy, in evangelization and spiritual consolation and comfort. So I think the faithful understand we can't stop. We cannot shut down doing our ministries, but how can we continue without their goodness and generosity? But we've never had anything like this, right?
Yeah, closing the churches is a whole different world.
And so not having a regular collection in parishes is impacting every parish, and we're taking a hit on that. We understand that. And with some parishioners out of work, giving is not where it normally is, and we respect that, and we're very sensitive to that. We don't want to be imposing upon people, asking them to do something they're unable to do at this time. We understand that. We have that sensitivity. But where there is the ability to help and to support, maybe to consider, faith direct, or making sure you somehow find a way to allow your parish to continue to work. And certainly the 40-plus ministries in our diocese are supported by our bishop's appeal. And, what we're saying here, these are ways that, yes, there is something you can do. Allow these ministries of the church and this care for the poor and our willingness to assist others, to continue. And again, with a respect and sensitivity to the specific needs as they vary from one person to another at this time. And if you're someone who needs help, please contact us.
Exactly.
Contact your parish, contact your diocese, contact Catholic Charities, okay? So we want to be there to help others too. And then, Billy, we, with the assistance of my finance counsel and our finance officer, we're doing everything we can to assist parishes and schools in navigating these unwavering and uncertain waters. We're in constant contact with our pastors and with our business managers. To begin with, for example, we've created tools to help parishes project their needs based on the changing income. And again, we're working with our parishes.
Right.
We're not trying to put more work on them or give them more burden. But this hyper-focused budgeting, in a sense, helps pastors and administrators with looking at the week-to-week needs of each of the parishes. And so that's something different. Where are we right now? I think this is what we have to be doing. Where are we week to week? We're helping pastors effectively communicate with parishioners about online giving. We're trying to find ways to support and to help alleviate the financial burdens that people in our parishes are experiencing. The diocese does not, in a sense, want to add to that.
Right.
We want to try to alleviate that, and we will continue to do that. We continue to help, and this is very, very important, we continue to help our parishes and school apply for the recently funded Paycheck Protection Program through Small Business Association.
Yeah, this is a big deal.
This is a big deal. And at first, when it was first being discussed, we weren't sure, because of our status and our structure and setup, would this apply to our parishes and to our schools and to Catholic Charities and other institutions? And it does. And while this program now in its second funding is a highly sought after program, is very competitive. We know that. Part of it was getting those applications and those loans in quickly. And I'll tell you, we did as a diocese, and many of our parishes did. And we know already of 15 parishes who have received the funding they asked for.
That's remarkable.
And so what a great source of income that will be. And that's just to help us get by. That's not giving us a cushion.
No.
It's to help us get by. And so, but we recognize this is a challenging time for our parishioners and parishes. We're just going to continue to do the best we can. But we, as a diocese, I can assure our listeners, we're here to support your parishes, and anything you can do to help us, we would be most grateful. Or if there's anything we can do to help you, know of our willingness.
And if you were one of the folks that Bishop Burbidge mentioned a second ago that you're not in a position to give at this point, don't forget our churches are open. Go and pray. Pray for the health of your parish. Pray for the health of the diocese. There's certainly something that you can do to assist during this time, even if it's not financial. Our churches are open. There's confessions available, and you can go there for private prayer. All right, Bishop, one last question is, what is something that you have learned about yourself during this time?
Oh, my goodness.
Are you more extroverted than you thought you were?
Yes, I am. I am more extroverted than I thought. I always knew. I love being with people, and I get energized by being out and engaging with the people. I always knew that. But I guess I'm learning the opposite of that, of how it kind of brings me down. Not to be, so I was a little surprised at actually the impact it's had on my my mood, my spirit in a sense, and so like all of us, you have to say, okay, well, all right, we got to address this. I can't stay down.
Right.
This is the moment we're in, and God's going to see us through it, and so find other ways to stay engaged, in which I've been doing, but nothing replaces the actual that. So I'm really surprised at the level of impact that has had, and and I saw last night how desperate I am in being able to go to our parishes and schools and even on other television to watch sporting events with them all being canceled. Like I was so excited that the NFL draft was going to be live last night that it was like I was like fully into it. I'm like, this is pretty desperate.
It's Christmas in April.
But I really do miss being with our people. I know how much they miss being in their churches, and my brother Priest and I really miss being with you, and I just can't wait until we can get started. I have established a reintegration plan, a task force that is going to guide me, and it's made up of some pastors and staff and laity throughout our diocese. Obviously, I think we all know we're going to be moving to a gradual, a phased reopening,
right?
And we don't know specifically when or what those details will be, phase by phase. But we've already initiated preparation for that and what that will look like. And I'm also in consultation with the bishops of our region and province too. So that as dioceses in this area, in this geographical area, maybe to the extent possible, it varies from state to state, but that we can be on the same page. So we're thinking ahead, dear friends, and I am like you. I just can't wait, even if it's gradually. That will be fine. We will continue to let the science guide us, because we don't want to come this far and then not be prudent and responsible for doing our part to help stop the spread of this virus, and to be compassionate in taking care of one another.
Absolutely. Bishop, any final thoughts? We've gone through a number of things and changed up our format a little bit, had a guest on, but any final thoughts, and then if you would close us out?
No, just how edified I am and inspired by our priests and by the faithful in this diocese to just see their love of the church and their faith and how they're persevering and not giving up. I know it's not easy. It's not easy for any of us. It's difficult. But I see a lot of people encouraging and inspiring and helping one another, and that's edifying. And so I just think the witness and example, dear listeners, that you and so many others are reflecting. And as I mentioned, Mass is being offered every day in this diocese by me and by our brother priests. And we are praying for you, and we are praying for your families, and certainly asking our risen Lord to bless you with his peace and the grace and the strength that you need, so that together we continue to walk humbly with our God. Thank you for listening to the Walk Humbly podcast. Make sure you check out more episodes on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify. You can follow me on Twitter at Bishop Burbidge, where I offer gospel reflections each morning and share photos and updates of what is going on in the Diocese of Arlington. Stay up to date with news, event information, and inspirational content by subscribing to our e-newsletter at arlingtondiocese.org.